la la. I
Hi.
like it when someone is early. I love that. That very rarely happens for me.
Being early.
I have to excuse my voice. I have a bit of a cold. I'll try to mute myself in between coughing. But
It's
I
all
didn't
good.
want to cancel because when my voice sounds like this, I feel like I sound like a Kathleen Turner, and it just makes me feel so empowered, like I am the most strongest, sexiest woman on the planet.
I
I
dig it.
love my voice when it sounds like this. I was like, I can't wait to do a podcast. I might die in the process, but we'll get through.
We'll
Um,
get through it.
I'm so excited. You have such amazing energy.
Well, it takes one to know one.
Well, you know what I was thinking about, because the question that I ask every guest, right? It's, hi, who are you? How do we know each other? Where can people find you online? So I guess we should just kick off with that and talk about how we know each other, because I think it's kind of funny that we met for about a solid 90 seconds and here you are.
Well, we met at Casablanca. You were helping set up some killer flower arrangements for the Dallas CASA fundraiser, and we met after you were. I remember you walking over, and I was like, "Wow, look at those flower arrangements! Those are amazing."
That is not a
And
euphemism.
and we're both obviously very shy people, so I mean, it probably took a lot for us to get a conversation going. If I imagine.
Well, and I really do mean it. I think the entire interaction was less than 5 minutes. And yet in that 5 minutes, I was able to gather the fact that your mother-in-law and your wife were involved in CASA. I don't know how that
Yes.
came out. That's what I was thinking about, where I was so excited and I was like, oh, please, please, please come on this podcast, is I wanted to highlight what CASA is, because it's something that it took me, quite frankly, probably 2 or 3 years to grasp what CASA is. Um, and so I wanted to highlight it for anyone who, one, just wants to know about community and service, but then two, for anyone who's looking for something super fulfilling. I was like, oh my gosh, you have a great story to tell. But I wanted to say, okay, so what are the 3 questions I ask? Who are you?
Uh,
Okay, who are
yes.
you? We should
Okay.
start with
Yes.
that one.
Hi guys. I'm Ryan Higgins. I am a very blessed and lucky man. I have a beautiful wife and 3 children. And when I am not wearing the dad and husband hat, I am a supervisor at Dallas CASA. And
Okay.
my online presence is on the good old Facebook,
I love that.
because I like to try to keep it, try to keep a low profile.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but my background is in digital marketing and social media marketing. So Facebook is actually where it's at. Facebook is where the most transactions, engagements, all of that happens. It's really cringy though, because I have to see a lot of people from my hometown, and not every belief needs to be posted.
Yes,
But
agreed.
you guys, if you're not on Facebook, stomach it, get back in there, go see what your grandma's up to and all of her political beliefs, and the religion and all of that. It's a chaotic mess, but I'm starting to see the beauty in it. So I made a commitment to myself this year. I'm going to post on Facebook once every day. It's a battle, but I'm going to say
I've seen
Facebook
your
is where
quotes. I
it's
really
at.
like them. I like your quotes. I really do. I've seen your quotes. They're very inspirational and very all about good things, which is, today it's very hard to find that, like, the positivity. And so I think that your quotes that you put up on Facebook are great because they just inspire people to be good.
You're really, really sweet. My dad called me like 2 days ago to tell me that he's sick of them. I've only been posting on Facebook for the year,
Well, you
okay,
know
and
what,
he's already
Dad?
sick of
You can
them.
just back off.
No, I actually started doing that because I've had so many people throughout the years since I was a kid actually quote me like even teachers quote me because I say these things and I make these idioms and people assume that they're popular colloquial like sayings and it's like no, that just came out of my weird brain. So I'm like, okay, at least when I die somewhere in the interwebs there will be a list of Ella quotes. I try to give credit if it's not my own word. But I'm like, okay, I'll put it somewhere in the ether and it will it will last where it does. But I appreciate the positive feedback. But Facebook is where it's at, y'all. If you're leaving it behind and you have a business, it's one to consider. Again, I okay, so let's talk about CASA. What
Yes.
is CASA?
So CASA is a nonprofit. It stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. And what we do is we advocate for children who are removed for alleged abuse or neglect from their homes. So I'm a supervisor at Dallas CASA. CASA is a national, well, in the United States network. And I don't know the exact figures, but I think there's approximately 950 to 960 CASA offices across the United States. Dallas CASA is actually the largest chapter. I know that last year we were serving on average on a daily basis, we were serving over 2,000 children.
For me, I'm from Orange County, so I was, we'll say, initiated, introduced into CASA in the Orange County chapter through my sorority, Kappa Alpha Theta. This is their national philanthropic endeavor. And so my initial impression of CASA was like a room mom. I was like, oh, it's like a mom that like goes to court with people and it's called CASA because it helps people get back to their houses. Like that was kind of my impression. And when I say it took 2 or 3 years to grasp it, it's because I didn't understand the policy involved. But for you, how did CASA become on your radar? Because I do want to dive more deeply into what CASA
Yeah.
does, and hopefully not take 2 or 3 years here for the listeners to grasp it. But what was your first impression, and maybe what were some of the misnomers you might have had going into it, hearing about CASA being introduced, and then where you are today?
Okay. Yeah. So my initial impression was, I kind of like you. I really didn't know exactly what CASA did until I went through the training and really figured out what was going on. But I mean, honestly, my initial impression was like, what is not to love about this organization? They give a voice to children um, who need one, and I'm not sure anything could be much more fulfilling than that. My story about CASA is kind of unique and fun. My wife and I were actually dating when we joined CASA. And I remember when we were dating, we were looking for something to do together. And she called me and she was like, "Hey, I found this organization. It's called Dallas CASA. They help kids. Would you be interested in like doing the training with me and like working cases together and doing that?" I was like, I mean, I don't even think she finished asking me the question before I said yes. Totally something that I was interested in doing. But as time has gone on, we joined the organization, and fast forward, we got married in 2012, and by 2015, we had a couple kids. So we had to take a little hiatus from CASA, as we were both, we had 2 kids and 50-hour-a-week jobs. But before we had to take that hiatus, we were working cases together, and then we came back to CASA probably about a year after our second daughter was born and started working cases together again. And funny story about me is that I've been in retail management. I did a little stint in advertising, but I did retail management for about 10 years after I graduated from college with a communications and advertising background. And so I was looking for something different and something that would bring me home to be more with my family, and something a little bit more on a day-to-day basis that would be fulfilling. And so fast forward all the way to 2019, Dallas CASA had a job opening, and I was like, well, I've got as good a chance as anybody. And so I went ahead and applied, and after the fact, my wife didn't actually think, she was like, well, to be honest, I didn't think you would actually get it. Not that she didn't think I was smart enough or didn't have the confidence, but she's like, you don't have any sort of degree or background in child welfare. And I just never let that stop me because I knew that I had a passion for CASA and the organization and what the mission of CASA was. And so I became a supervisor in 2019. And I have to say, it was probably one of the biggest leaps of faith that I've ever taken. There was a lot of praying that went into it. My wife and I had a lot of conversations about what it would mean for me to go from retail management to nonprofit and to go from where I was to doing this. But I'm so thankful that I did, every day and every day that I get to do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, well, and starting at the top, I think it's
Yes.
so freaking cool that this girl you're dating before she's your wife, she's just casually like, I'm gonna need you to volunteer with children who have been neglected and abused in the system. No, nothing heavy, just like this
Yeah. Just
lighthearted
a light.
volunteer work.
Yeah.
We could have make sandwiches and give them out to the homeless like that, but you know what, we're just gonna go all in here. And I think that's a really great way to vet if a man's got what it takes, because kudos to your wife, because she made that happen. The most I will ask a man I'm dating is to attend Casablanca with me. Like, oh, will you go to this open bar party with me on behalf that raises money for Casa? So the fact that you were willing to do that, like, wow, I hope everybody starts to level up their vetting process for dating a man, because you just set the bar so high. um I think that's
Well, thank you.
great.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful love story as well. You mentioned having children, and I have to imagine that that plays a factor in your personal journey as a supervisor. So you're supervising these volunteers, and these volunteers are the advocates, right? These are the individuals who are working with the children day in and
Correct.
day out. They know their cases. So just to elaborate a little bit further, about the volunteers, my understanding is, and please correct me where I'm wrong, because I'm sure I am, my understanding is you have a child that goes into the foster care system. They are now a part of the system, either removed from their home from abuse or neglect. And this child then has to go from either foster home, different foster parents, and or several different social workers, and or several different um, uh, attorneys or judges. And so you have a rotation of these adults in this child's life. And so what CASA is providing is a volunteer who stays by that child's side from beginning to end in a way that our government system cannot necessarily provide. Is that a fair assessment of what a volunteer does?
Very spot on. So yeah, so what happens is, so when when a child is removed from their home for abuse or neglect, then there is, that starts the legal process, and the judge is actually the one who appoints CASA. So CASA is not a legal party to the case; we're a friend of the court. But exactly like you said, we have supervisors, which I'm on staff at CASA, and then we have advocates who, I just have to say, like, I just have to give so much kudos to the advocates, because these are people like you and me that have lives and jobs and kids, and they take this volunteer role on, like you said before, like we were joking around before this, like, this isn't just like swinging by and dropping off a sandwich somewhere, packing. This is a very intensive type of thing that we're asking them to do. We visit the kids on a monthly basis in their placements, and they can either be placed in foster care placements, but sometimes we get lucky and we end up, and what we try to do is find kinship placements for them, so that even while they're going through that, process and that trauma, that at least they're with somebody that they know, like some sort of family. We also have what we call fictive kinship placements, which is where we try to find someone who's in that child's life who's really important to them. That could be a teacher, that could be a coach, someone who's had a relationship with that child prior.
You're kind of blowing my mind. I know about kinship and even fictitious
Mhm.
kinship, right? I knew that. Is it fictitious kinship or fictive?
Fictive.
Fictive. Oh, not fictitious.
They're
Fictive.
they're real. Like they're real people. It's a
Um,
nonfiction fiction placement.
but I didn't know that that was on CASA. I thought that was the social workers,
It
like
is.
CP. Okay.
It is. They're the ones who find the placements. Since we're not a legal party to the case, there are certain limitations that we have. But oftentimes what we can do is, and I've had advocates who like get on get on the good old Facebook when we get an affidavit and there's like, oh, there's no relative placements that are available, and look at that parent's history and see if there's a family member, and then provide that information to CPS and the guardian ad litem so that they can do their due diligence.
Well, and the reason why I ask is because I am known as being like FBI. I can find just about anything online. And I don't know if maybe this skill could be used for good. Like when I watch
It
these
can.
murder
It
mystery
can.
shows, I'm like, you guys, this is a skill. I'm using it to like stalk your ex-boyfriend, but maybe I need to be stalking like fictive kinship instead, is all I'm thinking.
Yeah, totally. My team lead at CASA, she is absolutely stunning at investigative work. I mean, she can find anybody, like you cannot hide from her. I think that she had a dad on a case one time and no one could find him. Well, she found him and he was like in another country, like in hiding. And she was like, boom, here he is.
I love that. No, my spidey senses are tingling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, where do you think what sets Dallas CASA apart? Because there are plenty of organizations
Sure.
that come together to advocate for children, take care. There are so many programs, both government, non-government, private entities, all of that. But what sets CASA apart? And I know a piece of it is, like you said, we're a friend of the court, right? So court appointed special advocate.
Right.
But outside of even that and the implications of that, what sets CASA apart from protecting, advocating, empowering these children?
Okay. Well, I have to say this. I think that what sets it apart the most is they care so much. CASA in general as a network cares, but I mean, I have just never been at a place that cares so much about not only the mission, what we're talking about, helping the kids, but also just cares so much about everybody. And that includes the staff. I just can't say enough good things about Dallas CASA and particularly about the leadership there. And I think that's really where it truly starts. That's where, we get the ability to do what we do on a daily basis. Everything that Dallas CASA does is centered around helping the children we advocate for. But more than that, they truly take into account the toll that doing this kind of work can have. And they do one of the things that I think that they do a great job on as an organization that deals with this kind of work is making sure that our mental health is a priority. I don't think that's always the case. And I think that truly sets Dallas CASA apart and makes it a great place to be. Like I just have to say, like the tenure of Dallas CASA staff is remarkable. Our chief program officer has been there since 1995. It's not uncommon for us to go to an all staff meeting and have celebrations for people that are celebrating, more than 10 years of being at CASA. I believe that we're able to have a unique role because CASA advocates are the ones who end up being a constant in the child's life. I know that one of the things that you had mentioned earlier, when you were doing your assessment of what CASA is you were talking about all the different people that come in and out of these kids' lives. And a lot of times, they don't end up in the same placement. They end up, in one foster home with a relative, another foster home. And every time that happens, there's a trauma and they have to go. A lot of times these kids are not only are they going to new homes, they're going to new people, they're going to new schools. I can't even imagine what that's like for a child. The very cool thing that sets Dallas CASA apart is our ability to be the constant. And I say that again, just because it's just so important to reiterate that, one of the things that we ask our volunteers when they decide to be a volunteer is for at least a 1-year commitment. But I myself have had advocates that have worked cases for up to 2 or 3 years and stayed on the case, which is extremely cool.
And I think what sets, if I can interrupt you, sorry,
No, go for it.
what also sets Dallas CASA apart is that Dallas, the chapter of Dallas, so just so the eavesdroppers have a grip here. Not every market in the United States. So I know you said about 600 chapters. That does not give 100% coverage in the United States. And in fact, a lot of chapters do not have 100% coverage for each of their foster children. And Dallas has 100% coverage, meaning that every
Yes.
single child in the Dallas foster care system has an advocate. I think for me, where I've really settled in with CASA is that piece of it, is the consistency.
The really cool thing that sets CASA apart that we're able to do, and I'm very glad you brought up the 100%. That was in my list of things to bring up. That when I started at CASA, I would probably venture to say, and this was back in 2011, I'd venture to say they were taking maybe 50% of cases, maybe less. And even when I started at CASA in 2019, we were in the 80, like mid 80% range for being able to take cases that were appointed to us out of Dallas County. And then within a very, very quick amount of time of me being there, we got to 100%. And that is an absolutely huge accomplishment to be
It
able to say, yeah, Judge, we're here. You got a case for us. You've got a child that needs our help. We're on it.
I don't know how you're able to stay so upbeat on such a just painful topic. I'm wondering, how do you address, like, this is a very challenging working with children is delicate anyway. Lord knows. I'm an auntie to a bunch of children, and if I have like a bad mood, they notice it. Or if I say one little comment, they're repeating it to me like 6 years later. I'm like, you remember me saying that, right? Like, children in general are just such delicate flowers. How are you training your CASA advocates and volunteers for such challenging, both from a jurisdiction standpoint, from a time constraint, from a mental health, like you said? How are you addressing those challenges, and what kind of key qualities are you looking for in a volunteer?
Yes. So I would definitely say that a big part of the training for us is that mental health piece. When we're doing the training, we understand that this is a tough thing, to work with children who are in these situations, and you're walking into homes where you don't know people. You're talking to, you're working with parents who, are having a challenging time, and that may also come across to an advocate who's trying to help them, but that parent is upset about what's going on. Understandably, sometimes, they're frustrated and trying to do everything they can to turn the situation around. But I would say some of the most important traits that we look for in volunteers are teachability and perseverance. Volunteers come in with all sorts of backgrounds. Like I said, I came in with a retail management background as a volunteer, and then again as a supervisor. But so many of our advocates coming in from different backgrounds, they bring in a lot of different expertise and knowledge in different areas. We ask them to be willing to draw from their knowledge while recognizing the need to view their advocacy through a different lens. And we ask and we talk about in training the frustrations and the roadblocks that they may encounter in their advocacy. So we definitely make it a point to go over all of that. Sometimes we need creative resolution. One of the things that we talk about it in training, but it's very hard to not get on the job and have it, is judging. We have to take into consideration everything that's going on, and we have to be able to be non-judgmental and know that somewhere along the line that, everyone in this situation, the kids, the parents, everybody needs help, right? So at the end of the day, my true sense is, if you have the heart to help others and you have compassion and you have empathy, everything else will work itself out. Being able to work with others is also a huge plus in looking for a volunteer, because when you're a CASA, when you're an advocate, you're part of a team. And I always tell advocates that having strong relationships with all the parties, so the CPS workers, the district attorneys, the judges, the guardian ad litems, which is the children's attorneys, having good relationships and having respect with those people is such an important part of making sure that we're able to advocate for each child. There's going to be situations where CASA may not agree with what CPS says or what the child's attorney says. As long as we communicate that in a respectful way, then that's really what's important. And having that solid relationship with all of those parties is so important when we're on that team with that, advocating for that child.
I'm wondering, can you share, without getting into specific confidential details,
Yes.
an example of how a Dallas CASA advocate was able to make a significant impact on a child's life, whether it was under your watch as a supervisor or yourself as a volunteer?
There's so many. I've worked with so many people on my team, and I've seen so many advocates and supervisors have such a big effect on children's lives throughout being a volunteer and being a supervisor. Even the smallest things go a very long way, right? So these kids are going, they're in this trauma, they're in this home that they don't know, but they have that volunteer showing up every month, listening to them. If it's a small child, just getting on the floor and playing with them, giving them a smile, those types of little things really make a huge difference. As far as a impact, I actually currently have an advocate as we speak who her case has 3 young children, and luckily the kids are in a relative placement. That's great. However, this advocate is bilingual, and the relative speaks Spanish, but the relative is also unable to read very well or write very well, which makes a lot of things in this system very complicated. But my advocate has had such a huge impact, and I'm in awe of everything she does. And a couple of examples: the kids needed daycare paperwork filled out, and I have 3 kids. I don't know if you've ever seen the expectations of daycare paperwork, but it's like you're going through like donating a body part or a medical procedure. Like they need every detail of your life on these forms, and they're very long and just tons of information. So my advocate actually went over and helped her fill all the paperwork out for the daycare. We then ran into a situation recently where one of the children needed food stamps, and the food stamp paperwork is even even more in detail and crazier than daycare paperwork by leaps and bounds. And my advocate went over with her laptop one day, and this is outside of the normal like visiting the kids every month. This is above and beyond. This is her doing this out of the goodness of her heart and her time. And she went over there and helped her fill out she spent 2 hours helping her fill out all the food stamp paperwork. I really I work with angels every day.
Representation in Dallas, right? A lot of other markets don't. And we have eavesdroppers who are in multiple markets. Can you talk about the needs both of Dallas CASA or in general of CASA, and talk about the demand of volunteers and exactly what you outlined? Yes, you're angels, but I think someone like me goes, well, I'm not an angel. I cuss a little bit more than I should. I mean, I'm a good person. I go to church
We
every
all do.
Sunday,
We
but
all
I don't
do.
feel
Yeah.
like I'm
Hey.
an angel. I don't feel worthy to be an advocate, and that's why I've kept my distance. Um, what would you say to someone who, like myself, who's like, all right, I probably have what it takes from on paper, right? I check plenty of boxes, but there is an emotional fear and apprehension. What would you say to other people who are craving a way to build communities, to serve communities, to be a part of the positive change and make a positive impact on children for today and arguably our nation
Right.
by advocating for these children? What would you say to someone like that in terms of like being an effective CASA volunteer and what it takes?
Well, first of all, I have to say you are worthy, and I think you're an angel also. So I'm just gonna put that out there. But I think that you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's people such as yourself who provide so much to Dallas Casa without being an advocate. We need people like you to, for example, Dallas Casa has the Young Professionals group. and the Children's Council. And those are both super, super pivotal things for like just very important organizations that help us, and they're a branch of us. And you guys do so much. Like I said, we met while you were helping set up flower arrangements for Casablanca. Casablanca is such a fantastic event. It brings awareness to CASA. It raises a ton of money for CASA. And let's be honest, it costs money to have a staff at CASA and to be able to do all the things we do, the advocates, mileage reimbursements, trips to go see kids, all of those things put together, it takes money to do it. And so anybody who has that fear, or who doesn't feel like they are quite ready for that volunteer role to work directly with children, I would definitely encourage anyone to still try young professionals, Children's Council. If you're in a different region or chapter, I don't know what each region and chapter has, but I'm sure that there's outlets that are a part of CASA that they could use help with. So don't let that, I don't want anybody to be discouraged just because they don't feel that they can be an advocate. That's okay.
Yes. And actually, on that note, what I will do is link in the show notes where you can donate today to
Thank
Dallas
you.
CASA. I'm going to be biased, or it's going to be Dallas CASA. You can go do your research for your own local chapter if that's what you want. But today we're talking Dallas CASA. Not that it's a
Yeah.
competition, but I'm just very competitive. That's how I roll. So I'll make sure to link various links where you can learn more about CASA as an organization, but then also where to donate. So your involvement in this incredible organization that I have been involved with for 15 years of my life into this. And I want to go deeper and deeper. I think maybe volunteering is also there, but we're saying down the line. Like it's
That's
it's
okay.
on the horizon, but it's way out there.
We'll get you. We'll get you
Um,
at some point.
I know, because I'm a bleeding heart. I want to do it all, but I want to do it well. And so, for anyone else who feels inspired, or you have extra time on your hands, or you have extra cash on your hands, because I know a lot of you do, you can go ahead, check out the show notes. You know that your money will be going to an incredible organization. This is where I love to give, when I can, not only my time and financially, to help be a part of this incredible process. And one of the things I told you when we met is that I had the opportunity to speak with a foster parent who had no idea my relationship with CASA. And I just very nonchalantly asked, do you have a CASA? Like what, acting very dumb. And the way her eyes lit up and tears just came into her eyes, and she said, I could not do this without my CASA. I could not do it without my CASA. I've had 3 social workers in less than a year. I've had 2 judges. I've had paperwork that gets lost. I've had paperwork that's misfiled. I've had all these myriad of issues that come with the foster care system and the complications there, but my CASA is the person who has been there the whole time. And that's the kind of testimony that we don't get inside the organization as much. But when it's out on the
Yeah.
streets and someone is telling me with tears in her eyes what's been happening on her side of the world within the system, I just thought to myself, okay, this is the real deal. This is why Kappa Alpha Theta is aligned with them nationally. Like, it's the proof is in the pudding. We just need more people to know, because you guys are like secret warrior angels that so many people don't know about. So I really do implore you. I'm not saying this because I found CASA yesterday. Like I said, I've been involved with CASA for 15 years, and I'm very impressed with everything that I've seen with the Dallas chapter. As we close this out, I want to ask you what I ask everybody. And I think what is so beautiful about this episode is that it wasn't about you, right? We're talking about a bigger, better purpose. But I do want to bring it back to Ryan Higgins, this amazing man who got coerced into volunteering for some pretty little thing that he was dating. I still love that
Happy
story.
wife, happy life.
Amen. I'm on this path of what I call self balance, and it's this thing I kind of made up, and it's about finding balance from a spiritual, emotional, financial, and physical perspective, because we need all of it, just like you said with CASA, right? Like, kind of need money to make it happen, but you also
Right.
need that emotional empathy and compassion. Um, for you, as you work within CASA, as you navigate the real world as a father, as a husband, and you're doing all of this work, where do you find you're like the strongest, and where do you hope to develop a little bit more?
Okay, well, first off, I love this term. I think it's amazing. So the SEFPH balance, spiritual, emotional, financial, physical health. I think you nailed like the four core aspects of life and making life better. So kudos for that. Uh, I would say that right now, the strongest one I have in my life is actually physical health. I actually decided a little over a year ago to throw in the towel on drinking, and it's really helped me in so many areas of my life. But one of the most impactful ones is my physical health. You know, I've always been an off and on again runner, but after I stopped drinking, I really made it a focus to run, and I ran a 5K in November, and I just did a 10K last weekend, and then I have a half marathon on the books in May, and I'm hoping that I can train up enough and get strong enough to run a full marathon next year. So it's a lot, and I have a job and I have three kids, so it takes a lot to get the necessary workouts in to make the time for it. But it's helped me so much to be a better father, better husband, and a better employee. I definitely would say my area of growth would be in the financial part of that. I'm currently working on trying to be more frugal on cutting back on the fun stuff. I'm a big trinket guy. I would probably venture that I've bought more Hot Wheels and fidget spinners in my 30s than most kids in their preteens. I'm not sure if I should be sharing that with the world, but it is what it is. You know, I don't drink or gamble. I got to have something, right?
I love that.
I
Well,
mean,
and
that's
I'm
something.
with you. I mean, especially this year, this economy, I think that quite frankly, that's the overwhelming answer from everybody, and for myself as well, of kind of taking a step back. That's what inspired the Seth, because I felt like I was getting too financially focused and really negating the spiritual, emotional, and a physical part. Which 5K did you do in November, by the way?
Turkey trot.
Me too. I was
You
there.
did?
I
Oh man.
finished. You know what was so depressing? I'm so out of shape. And I finished in the top 10% of quote women my age. For women your age, I didn't know how to feel about that. And I also
Don't
know I
look at the
did
women
not
your
run
age.
my
Just
best.
look at the overall. Just look at the overall. Just
Yeah,
forget
I think
about all that. Look at
overall
the
I
overall.
finished like
You feel a lot
bottom
better. Yeah.
90. But yes, I was there too. And I'm trying to I want to beat my time for last year. But I have not been training the way I need to. My physical health is where, so I'm with you. Like, I love what you're saying about cutting alcohol. It's something that Casablanca was my first night of drinking in a while, because I've been abstaining myself. And I hear you. Like, I see a difference. Like, now that I've brought alcohol back into my life, I'm like, I think we see it's such a clear difference. So I love that. And most of all, Ryan, I just really, really want to thank you for the deep compassion and leadership that you bring. The energy that you have is so contagious. I know that even for anyone who can't see you right now, they hear it in your voice. That passion that you're bringing is so incredible. And I know you're doing good work, but thank you so much for inspiring the rest of us today, because I was sick, and now I feel like I'm not even sick anymore because you got me so jazzed up. My voice left.
Yeah,
I'm no
that
longer
raspiness
Kathleen
is
Turner.
gone.
I know. What'd you do to me?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I took the Kathleen Turner out of your voice. My bad.
But I really, really just thank you for sharing your story of hope, and thank you for all that you're doing to help heal a lot of brokenness that we're seeing in our world, in our system, all of that. You're doing such incredible work, and I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. I'm thank you. That means a lot to me. And I am also grateful for you and grateful for this opportunity. I think this is It was so cool. This is my first podcast.
Can't tell.
And
You're great.
I hope to do some more because they're so much fun, and you make it so much fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the time, Ryan. I'm going to thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening in to Eavesdrop with Ella. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, rate, or review Eavesdrop with Ella on your favorite podcast platform. While you're at it, you should also send this episode to a friend so we can connect with more eavesdroppers just like you. If you'd like to be a guest, you can visit ellaparlor.com to learn more. Until next time, this is Ella Parlor reminding you to stay resilient, stay abundant, and above all, stay balanced. Thank you for eavesdropping, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Eavesdrop with Ella, a production of EP Consulting. Some of the products and services mentioned are paid promotions, and any advice should be confirmed with a qualified professional. Opinions and ideas are for entertainment purposes only and belong to EP Consulting. All rights reserved.